Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. We're live here. I think I just got to put my headphones in. Sorry, we're going to be reading Union with God today by Jeanne. Guyon. I think I might be pronouncing her name wrong, but I hope you guys can all hear me, and hopefully this is working. So I'm going to be reading from this book here. I'm podcasting at the same time, so if you guys could just bear with me here. Looks like I'm live on YouTube. So if anyone's tuning in, stay tuned in. We're going to be reading Union with God by Madame Guyon. And we're reading chapter 2 and 3 today. I did chapter 1 yesterday. You guys can check it in the links if you missed it. So just give me a minute as I get live on all the different channels here. Oh, looks like we can't go live on Facebook. Well, okay, we'll just do it here on YouTube then, since we haven't really done many YouTube lives. And we're going to be here on Podbeam as well. So we're live podcasting at the same time. So thanks for you guys for tuning in today, and check back in tomorrow. Please like and subscribe and share and comment below after I read chapter 2 and 3 here from Union with God. And I hope you enjoy it. It really relates to a lot of what's happening in my life and what's been going on around me. And this helped me really to understand a lot more about the New Age experience and God and Jesus and Christ, and having that union that so many seek in twin flame communities and other places as well. And I haven't been on live in a long time, so I thought I'd start up doing these lives for all you guys and getting to know everybody. So chat, let's have fun. And let's get started. So if you want to, again, if you want to see chapter 1, read chapter 1, we'll put that in the comments, and it's on my YouTube channel already. If you're listening in by podcast, then you'll have to go to my YouTube channel or go to my website, ryanjordan.ca. So as you look back on the last chapter, you may conclude that at this point, your soul will have reached its proper state. The soul is silent before God, is constantly breathing out of love, and is therefore the instrument of the most powerful amorous activity. You are responding to divine love, which is being extended to you by him. Furthermore, your soul is even leaping constantly toward this divine love. In this interaction of activity, there is oftentimes an accompanying light and almost constant sense of peace. I must add, though, that it is also from this interacting of love that you may come not only to practice some of the greatest virtues, but also some of the most severe self-denials. We have seen that you are best rid of distractions by being drawn inwardly to the Lord and not by wrestling with them. As you enjoy the time of victory over outward distractions, you may begin to believe that you are forever free from any enemy whose power has been destroyed. You may feel you have paid a high price for the ground you have gained. You may be very surprised, therefore, when you come upon a dry spell. This dry spell will serve to remind you in a very striking manner that you have other outward weaknesses. When you have entered into that time of your life, when your soul sits quietly and lovingly before the Lord, you can be very surprised to suddenly find a dry spell in your life. Not only has a dry spell emerged along with the discovery of previously unseen faults, but even when old ones begin reappearing. Looking about you, you may feel that your former strength for doing battle is drying up. Why is this taking place? The exact proportion that your self-effort is laid aside. So also your strength for resisting diminishes. As you continue to advance toward the Lord, so the power of your soul becomes less active, and you become, paradoxically, weak in combat. In other words, God becomes stronger within you. So you become weaker. At first sight, this seems to be a very dangerous condition for a Christian to find himself in. But do not fail to recognize this fact. All your labors, even when aided by grace, cannot accomplish the conquest of those outward things which distract your life. If you were strong, you still could not conquer the weakness of your outer life. Under no circumstance are you able to effectively deal with such things. It is the Lord himself who takes gradual possession of your soul. It is he, and he alone, who becomes your purifier. In the beginning, he required you to be very watchful. Then he led you into a deep relationship of love. Beyond this point is his requirement that you remain steadfast and let him do all the work. Watch as he will begin to manifest himself to you as Lord of all things. See him as he subjects the flesh to the spirit. All true outward improvement comes only after inward development. Outward improvement is totally dependent upon the inward. When you have engaged in action and devotion, however simple that they may be, you are also putting into action some outward undesirable habits of the soul. Therefore, turn inward. Up until now, you have witnessed the destruction of many things that belong to outward sentences. Now that there are inward activities of the soul which must also be defeated, how is this done? Such is brought about by a delightful resting and a ceasing of working, while your Lord, in turn, works deep within you. Do not be surprised if during this time God seems to be neglecting his work on your outer man. Do not be surprised if during this time God seems to be neglecting his work on your outer man. This is why these outward defects, which you thought had been destroyed, have reappeared. You have arrived at a new place in your journey toward the Lord. You can expect your dry spells to be longer and more frequent, and the longer and drier these times are, the greater will be your weaknesses. Such things have fallen to you so that your soul's relationship to the Spirit is more purified and therefore more trustable. The dryness and weakness which purify your soul's activities and the love relationship that is going on between your soul and the indwelling Lord work together to put an end to things external. You will notice that until now, the Christian's experience alternates between enjoyment and dryness. Dryness will always purify the soul. And the joy that follows the dryness, it too will be purified by the next encounter of dryness. This process is always painful to a believer. As a result, he feels quite weak and barren. As soon as you become sufficiently weak that you cease fashioning your own concept of self-denial, then your Lord will come, take over, and accomplish the defeat of the flesh more thoroughly than you could have ever do. And how does he do this? By dispensing the cross to you according to your measure. The cross you encounter is not a cross which you will choose, but a cross which you receive by his sovereignty over your life. That's the end of chapter 2, and I'm going to continue with chapter 3. As you move toward the center, you must at some point arrive at a state of naked faith. Definitely. You will come to a naked faith as a natural result of what has happened to you. Mm-hmm. All things else, both outward and inward, are desolation. What am I saying? We have seen a forward progress in your spiritual growth. And we see that progress taking many years. Yet at some point, this progress, acquired at such cost, must be taken away. Whether suddenly or gradually, all the progress made is lost. With that, you will begin perhaps the longest stage of your journey. Surely, this may not appear to be a happy state, but at its end, it is a death of your self-nature. I qualify that a death of the self-nature if you are willing to consent to be left in such desolation. This is a desolation so long and so complete that the soul finally dies to self. There are infinite number of Christians who never passed the earlier stages in their movement toward a deep union with the Lord. Consequently, those who reach this particular plateau are very few. And those who complete this particular portion of the sojourn are fewer still. This desolation or total desertedness comes as a sudden and violent occurrence for many believers who encounter this experience. Maybe some of you, like me. I will speak momentarily of those upon whom this state arrives slowly. But if their introduction is sudden and violent, they really have a less reason to complain. The very severity of such a sudden affliction serves as a kind of consolation. You see, there are others who come upon this experience as something enfeebling. The end result of this experience for them is a disgust for everything. Thus, they appear to have an unwillingness to obey the Lord. Now let us consider this time of desolation. You will be first deprived of the works which you formerly accomplished voluntarily. That is, you become unable to do what you could formerly do very easily. As this desolation increases, you will begin to feel a general inability in all things. This state does not get better, but rather enlarges day after day. This weakness and inability to take complete possession until finally you say, "That which I do not wish to do. But what I would do, I will not. What I hate, that is what I do." Romans 7:15. Let's read that again. That which I do not wish to do. But what I would do, I will not. What I hate, that is what I do. After you have been deprived of all past progress, both inward progress and outward progress, all of which might be referred to as non-essential. The Lord begins to work on those things which are essential. Every Christian virtue, even the ones that you have taken for granted, disappear. As they depart, you will lose all joy within. There is a sense of inward loss. I would like to point out at this point, it is not a real loss in your spirit. The loss is only in your consciousness. You can be sure that your spirit is still strong, but from your viewpoint, there seems to be no apparent activity deep within you. The presence of your spirit is imperceptible to you. And the Lord, who is there in your spirit, is also imperceptible to you. Please know, it is necessary that the reality of your spirit be hidden. If it were not, the death and the loss of self could not be accomplished. The spirit retires within you. The spirit is shut up so closely that you are not even aware that your spirit exists. You will ask yourself again and again, why has this desolation come upon me? And why was it necessary? The whole object of this journey thus far has been to take you first from outward ways to a singleness of heart. Then, second, to sensing the realm of the spirit within you. And third, to an awareness of the loss of the sense of the presence of your spirit. Finally, there comes a painful awareness of loss of everything. Perhaps it could be stated differently. The course begins vigorously in the realm of the unseen, of the seen. This seeing the seen and not seeing the unseen is a state every believer begins in, regardless of the singleness of his heart. Next, you leave the realm of the seen and are introduced to unseen, spiritual realms where we live by faith and are nourished by love. Later, you leave the spiritual level and enter into naked faith. Here, you are left dead to all spiritual experiences. It is at this juncture in your life that you die to yourself. Having then died to yourself, you pass into God. It is from this point on that one lives from the life of God alone. And Sophia, April would like to add. Can you see the progression? In the beginning, God dispenses his grace to you in such a way that you begin with things of the outward senses. Then you advance toward things that are spiritual. You end by what seems to be a leaving even of this realm. Finally, your inner man is brought gradually to its center and united wholly with God. The more deeply your soul retires into the most hidden parts of your being, the more you are knit into singleness. That is, you cannot continue to scatter yourself among 1,000 things at this point. You have lost not only the ability to accomplish all those myriad of things, you have also lost the ability to be keenly conscious of them. You are entirely stripped, and gradually you lose not only everything, but you also lose yourself. Either that or you are forced to desert the things of self because inward desolation has caused you to lose the ability to even be aware of the things to yourself. You now find yourself stripped without mercy of everything within and without. You seem to have lost all that meant anything to your outward nature and all that was of any value to your inward nature. What a seemingly unchristian state for a Christian to be in. Nonetheless, the pilgrimage is by no means at its seemingly lowest point. Next, this is the portion of the pilgrimage that has the experience of being the worst of all. You are delivered over to temptations. Or perhaps we should say testings. The more you are tempted, the more you seem to be deprived of all strength to resist external things. You are at a time when you are at your weakest and you are subject to all sorts of attacks. It is in this precarious hour that the strength of your spirit is removed from you. In the removing of this last place of refuge, all evidence of the goodness of good seems to depart with it. You have lost faithfulness of God. You have lost the faithfulness of your spirit, faithfulness to its very own nature. Now, what do we see here before us? We see you, a devote of Christ. Stripped of all things you so desperately need in order to deal with a powerful enemy in hard pursuit. You go on fighting and defending yourself as well as you possibly can. Watching for every opportunity to discover a stronghold of safety. But the longer you fight, the weaker you become. Your enemy, in turn, is constantly increasing in strength. What then shall you do? Obviously, you must get to the gate of your fortress as quickly as you can and find aid there. Abundant aid, if at all possible. But alas, you reach your fortress and find it closed. And rather than giving you any aid, the keeper has barricaded every possible door to refuge. You fall into the hands of your powerful enemy. But miracle of miracles, when you are defenseless, in complete despair, and have utterly given up, you recognize your enemy as your best and trusted friend. Everything is good. See the good in everything, people. All is good. You can be sure, if you've come this far in this pilgrimage, you will touch upon all experiences described herein. Perhaps they will manifest themselves in ways totally unlike the description given here. But this experience essentially somehow awaits you. The loss of every blessing, the development of all sorts of weaknesses, the powerless to protect yourself, no rest or sanctuary in your spirit, God himself seeming to be angry, and to crown it all, you find temptations on every hand. I think I hear you say, I would willingly endure all that if I could be sure. In that hour, that my will was in harmony with God's will, and I could know that I was not following my fallen nature. I think I hear you all say that. I would willingly endure. Well, I can assure you, I've been through it. Trust it. Trust. Have faith. Blind faith. Naked faith. I'll keep reading here. Of course you would. You would also be happy, but such cannot be. And you become weak, and you lose your ability even to love. Your spirit also becomes weak. You see, your spirit has been nourished by the strength of your love for the Lord and by his love for you. But now your very spirit seems to have vanished. Your spirit is not manifesting itself anywhere by any sign. Certainly, your spirit is not taking part in anything that is happening to you. The conclusion then is that your spirit is separating itself from you and is furnishing you no strength. Consequently, you feel that you are living completely by your own strength, your own will, and are consenting to your natural man or woman. Because you cannot sense your spirit, your own will is all that you are aware of. You will recall that in an earlier chapter, I said that in your journey toward union with the Lord, the natural senses are subdued and extinguished. This is true. But why this occurrence? Because of the earlier victories which grace has granted you. Because of these, however, you become high-minded. Nothing can prevent that, really. The soul, sometimes unconsciously, clings tightly to its own elevated opinion of what is good. So while you stand there believing that the baser things of your nature are dead, God seemingly resurrects your fleshy nature in order to use it as an instrument to expose the exalted position of your soul. Yep. He is determined to subdue not only your flesh, but also your soul in its totality. Yeah. Amen. Dear Christian, do not fear that by the Lord's seeming resurrecting of your fleshy nature, he will allow you to fall into gross sin. No. He has already extracted the venom from the viper. Otherwise, he would not make use of it. At this present level of your spiritual sojourn, the Lord can safely implore your baser nature because he has already extracted that evil force which, in former times, has been so violent and so criminal. He now takes your baser nature and uses it as an antidote on an exalted soul. If you can see the grace and wisdom of God's way in bringing a believer to total death of self, then you will be filled with delight at his seemingly unusual ways. Even though you may not sense everything outwardly or inwardly, yet you will become overcome with love. These little traces of God's grace, when revealed to my heart, have often overwhelmed me with ecstasy. Now, if you're going to be faithful to growth of the Lord's life which is planted within you, you must allow your life to be spoiled, wrecked, and even destroyed to the full extent that God desires it to be. And not be anxious about yourself. Rather, sacrifice to God all your interests, those of time, those of eternity. Do not allow any excuse of your part to retain the slightest atom. For the least little reservation will cause irreparable loss. Such reservation prevents the death of self from being total. You must let God work until he is absolutely satisfied. Let the winds, even the tempest, beat upon your very every direction. You must allow such things, even if you are completely submerged, as we are often, beneath the tumultuous billows that blow. And now a wonderful thing appears, far from being estranged from God by your suffering and by the wretchedness of your state. Your Lord suddenly appears. If he sees any danger of your becoming too weak, he gives you some token of his nearness. He comes as if to assure you, perhaps for only a moment, that he was actually with you throughout all your tribulations. I emphasize the words for a moment because his revealing himself in this way is of no permanent value. His appreciation is only intended to keep you on the course and to invite you to suffer a further loss of self. May these words serve to remind you that all the stages we have spoken of are not continuous in violence. These are intermissions, dear Christians. Nonetheless, these moments are respite, make them trials, which are sure to return, seem even more painful than before. You see, during the recess from God's dealing, your soul takes hope, believing perhaps it can escape. Natural things will take every little opportunity to try to save natural life. A drowning man will grab even the blade of a razor. In that frantic moment, he does not think about the pain that will result from his action. He only sees that there is something out there from which he can grasp. That ends the chapter 2 and 3. So thank you guys all for tuning in and watching today. I hope you guys all share this out and enjoyed this. And subscribe, like, share, comment below. April, thank you for all your comments here. I haven't really had a chance to read them, but I will check that out after. And I hope that everyone can share this out and tune back in. If you missed chapter 1, chapter 1's available on my YouTube channel and in the links below. And this was chapter 2 and 3, and you'll be seeing chapter 4, 5, 6, and 7 coming up over the next few days as well. So same time every day, 1:11 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be doing this live on podcast, on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever we can get this out. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and lots more videos and different stuff to come. Stay tuned, guys. Love and light.